Brutal truth, CEO never smiled for 20 years until this song made him laugh at midnight. In the dimly lit boardroom of Harkin Enterprises, the air was thick with tension. It had been 20 long years since anyone had seen Marcus Gray, the notorious CEO, crack a smile. The rumors buzzed around the corporate world like a swarm of bees, each tale more outrageous than the last. Some claimed he had made a pact with the devil, others whispered that he was cursed, doomed to wear a mask of grim seriousness. His face, a frozen mask, struck a chord deep in the gut of his employees. The idea that one man could hold so much weight, so much darkness, was enough to send shivers down spines. On a stormy night, with lightning flashing and the rain pounding against the glass, something changed. An unexpected sound filled the otherwise silent building, the soft melody of an old song. It seemed to seep through the walls, wrapping around every crevice and then bursting through the door. Employees looked up from their screens, confusion painting their faces. A melody that hadn't been heard in years grabbed their hearts, pulling them back to carefree days of youth. It was the same tune that had been playing every year at the company's anniversary, the one that some claimed brought good luck. But that night, it was different. It felt electric. As whispers of disbelief echoed through the room, Marcus sat alone at the head of the table, his piercing blue eyes wide open. Something deep inside him stirred. The pounding rain matched the beat of his heart, and for the first time in centuries, or was it just years? He felt goosebumps on his skin. The walls of ice that surrounded his heart began to thaw just a little. Would he really laugh? The very idea seemed like a distant dream. The tension jumped off the charts, transforming curiosity into desperate anticipation. Suddenly, a sharp crack of thunder jolted everyone. The lights flickered briefly before plunging the room into darkness, then came back on with a blast. And there it was again, the haunting melody cut through everything like a beacon in a storm. It demanded attention. It beckoned them to wonder. But what song was it? What hidden magic lay within those notes? Was it just a twist of fate, or was there something eerily intentional behind it? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With the melody still lingering in the air, everyone leaned closer. The silence pressing in, thick and palpable. And then, just as they thought the moment would slip away, Marcus Gray's lips twitched. Was that a smile forming? Whispers of shock erupted in the room, half desperate wonder, half terrified disbelief. Could this be the breaking point? Would laughter finally break free from his lips? The stakes were impossibly high, every heart racing, waiting for the impossible to unfold in the most unexpected way. What happened next would change everything they thought they knew about their enigmatic leader. Would midnight finally unveil the truth? The air crackled with energy. Eyes fixed on Marcus, the room held its breath. The tension felt like a live wire, and the employees exchanged glances charged with a mix of disbelief and unguarded hope. Would he finally break? Would the man notorious for his cold demeanor let something as simple as a melody reach inside and shatter his fortress? The melody soared, filling the space with haunting notes that danced around them, each sound like a spark igniting memories once buried. For those who had spent 2 decades under Marcus's steely gaze, it was unreal to think they were just a breath away from witnessing the impossible. A laugh wouldn't just be a laugh, it would be like the sun breaking through a storm, illuminating everything around it. Suddenly, thunder roared again, drowning out the song momentarily, and as it echoed through the room, Marcus's face twitched. The tiniest hint of a smirk ghosted across his lips, his eyes glazing momentarily with something that resembled joy. Gasps escaped from the gathered crowd. It was almost too much to bear, something raw was surfacing, breaking through layers of ice. But it's just a song, whispered Evelyn, the youngest analyst, eyes wide with disbelief. It felt weighty, like a truth that could shift the foundations of the company. Her voice was barely audible amid the rising thrill. How can music move someone so profoundly, murmured Simon, who had once worked closely with Marcus in their early years. Curiosity sparked a flicker of recognition in his heart, a memory of the man that Marcus had once been before life hardened him. Then, as if punctuating the tension, Marcus's laughter erupted deep and hearty, echoing off the glass walls like shattered glass. It sent a thrill through everyone, pure and unrestrained, but the laughter held an edge, a shadow lurking within. Up close, they could see his face transforming before their eyes, the lines of stress softened but didn't vanish, still etched in worry. But why now? Why this song? As the laughter faded, a strained silence replaced it. Hope twisted, shifting into confusion. The music lingered, but there was an unsettling note, a hidden darkness that resided within those sounds. Tell me, Marcus's voice, usually so commanding, now wavered. Who played that song? His gaze swept over the employees, searching, demanding answers from their wide-eyed faces. A tremor of unease rippled through the room. I don't know, said Tom, the IT intern, his voice cracking. It just started playing. A cold chill filled the air. His question hung ominously. What if the song wasn't just the past? What if it carried with it something far more sinister? An unseen force, perhaps even a dark intention behind the melody that had temporarily thawed his frozen heart. What does it mean? Asked Evelyn, her voice breaking the heavy silence, curiosity tinged with dread. Marcus's brow furrowed as his laughter faded, replaced by a haunted look, the flickers of joy extinguished as quickly as they appeared. It means more than you think, he finally replied, his tone grave. And it might change everything. The room held its breath once again, a tension more haunting than moments before. What did he know? What power did the music entwine with? Beneath the surface of their jubilation lay something darker, waiting to surface. As the lights flickered ominously once more, uncertain shadows danced on the walls. The storm outside raged on, and the music swelled before descending into a haunting whisper. What had they unlocked, and at what cost? All eyes remained locked onto Marcus, who stood on the precipice of revelation. You've awakened something I buried long ago. Are you ready to face what comes next? The question loomed, heavy like the storm itself. Did they truly want to know? As the melody faded into a hush, the darkness pressed in around them, an invisible shroud waiting to be unveiled. What lay ahead would either shatter their assumptions or bind them to secrets they didn't want to discover. They were captivated, but for how long? As the night deepened, the clock struck closer to truth, a truth that could leave them all terrified. The room fell into a hush once more. And then, as if to announce the arrival of fate, the lights flickered once again. What would rise from the shadows? A low rumble of thunder whipped through the office, causing everyone to jump. Their nervous anticipation hung heavy in the air, like a thick fog enveloping the faint sounds of the night outside. Marcus stood at the center, the source of their confusion and fear. His eyes roamed over faces he had so often overlooked, and in that moment, they weren't just employees, but witnesses to a man on the brink of disclosure. What did you awaken? Marcus's voice was barely more than a whisper, but it cut through the lingering tension. His clenched fists betrayed the storm of emotions swirling within. Evelyn's heart raced. She could feel it in her bones. Whatever lay beneath the surface was far more than just a simple reaction to music. It was a past that threatened to unravel, and something told her it was not just Marcus's past at stake. What do you mean? She barely managed to ask, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. Marcus stepped closer to the edge of the conference table, his expression shifting from fear to anger. The darkness in his voice grew like shadows creeping at dusk. You have no idea what's come back, he warned, the same chilling edge that carried through his laughter now dripped with venom. Simon took a step forward, attempting to bridge the gap, desperate for understanding. Is this about the song? He pressed. Was it yours? Marcus's silence screamed louder than any answer. The storm outside intensified, rattling the window panes, a low growl like a beast shadowing them. The walls felt as if they were closing in, the flickering lights mimicking the mounting panic rising among the group. "I don't remember creating that song," Marcus finally said, voice taut, straining against the weight of a memory that clung to him like smoke. "But I remember the darkness it brought." "What do you mean?" Tom interjected, his expression a mix of confusion and fear. "What darkness?" "You don't want to know." Marcus snapped, his anger erupting unexpectedly. It was like watching an erupting volcano, the past boiling over into the present without warning. The stunned silence was thick for a heartbeat, the air practically charged with uncertainty. A glimmer of something crossed Marcus's face, a fierce battle raging within him between the man he was and the shadows he faced, then abruptly, with a flick of his wrist, he gestured towards the door. "Everyone, leave," he commanded, an authority slicing through the confusion. "This isn't your battle." But no one moved. Their bodies seemed rooted in place, uncertain if stepping away meant running from danger or abandoning the man who had finally, if only for a moment, revealed a crack in his cold facade. Marcus shook his head, frustration bleeding into his tone. "You think it's just about me?" "No. This disaster, it's attracted something. That song isn't merely nostalgia, it's an invitation, and it knows who created it." A sensation of dread pooled in Evelyn's stomach, and her eyes widened as understanding washed over her. "You mean it's being called back like a beacon?" With newfound urgency, Marcus locked eyes with Evelyn. "Exactly. And it's stronger than I ever anticipated, and you have no idea what it wants." At that reading, gasps spread through the office like wildfire. They could feel the reality of his words tightening around them, constricting like a vice. What had they stumbled upon? Before anyone could voice their thoughts, the lights above fizzled out completely, plunging them into darkness. The storm roared ominously, a cacophony outside casting thunderous vibrations through the building. "Prepare yourselves," Marcus whispered into the void, a warning that raised the hairs on the back of their necks. "You're in this with me now. Whatever happens next, it's here." As words hung in the air, promises of chaos and truth lurking just below the surface, a chilling realization settled in: they were not just witnesses any longer. They were players in a fate whose outcome remained shrouded in darkness, and with that looming uncertainty, a whisper of a sound brushed past their ears. Familiar yet haunting. The melody floated softly through the dark, pulling them down a path they had no choice but to follow. What awaited them on that shadowed road? Would they survive the truth? Or would it consume them whole? Evelyn held her breath, the darkness wrapping around her like a heavy shroud. The echoes of the haunting melody slithered through the air, weaving a tapestry of dread and curiosity. Each note felt like a tether, tugging at something deep within her. "Did you hear that?" Simon's voice quavered as he strained to catch the faint tune, his eyes darting around the room, searching for shadows that whispered secrets. Marcus glared at him, his stare sharp enough to cut. "It's a call," he said. "A signal of something much worse." His tone was like ice, freezing all thoughts of safety. The silence cracked beneath the weight of their fear, and suddenly, the lights flickered back on, flickering like a heartbeat. In the corner of the room, the small projector flickered to life, casting an eerie glow on the team gathered around the table. Faces pale and wide-eyed, images began to flash across the screen, a malevolent collage of landscapes warped by despair, twisted figures writhing in shadows, each accompanied by the soft, haunting strains of the song. It was like watching a nightmare unfold. The very air felt electric, vibrating with the memories too potent to forget. "Stop it!" Marcus shouted, raising his hands. The air sizzled, and the screen halted as if obeying his command. "You don't understand what you're seeing. It's not just art, it's a history, my history." He looked vulnerable for a moment, exposed like a raw nerve. Then, just as quickly, a hardness replaced the uncertainty. "I thought I buried it. I thought that by forgetting, it would stay dead. But here it is, clawing its way back to life." Evelyn's heart raced as turmoil surged within her. Was this song tied to Marcus's past in a way they couldn't fathom? "What did you do?" she asked, her throat dry. "What's in these images?" "Things I should have left behind." His jaw tightened, and he stole a glance at the group. "Things that people aren't meant to see. But now, it wants out. It's hungry." Tom shifted uneasily. "Hungry? Hungry for what?" Marcus looked down, contemplating what lay ahead. "For souls, for chaos, for fear." His gaze hardened, eyes narrowing. "And it's not just my soul, it's yours too." The room erupted in murmurs, confusion swirling wild. "We can't just stand here," Simon cried. "What do we do?" "Close your eyes," Marcus said sharply, regaining control, pushing the fear from his mind. "Listen to the song. Feel the air, the vibrations. You'll sense its hunger. But remember, fear feeds it. Don't let it win." As if rehearsed, they closed their eyes, following his command, every pulse of the melody echoing in their veins. The warmth of bodies now turned into a shiver, electric energy swirling around them. In the darkness behind their eyelids, familiar shadows danced, trickling memories that felt like ghosts come home to roost. Evelyn could hear her breath quickening, the dread of revelation pressing on her chest. It called to her in memory, tugging at strings half forgotten, threading through her past, too. She opened her eyes, images whirled back to life, shifting from the screen and materializing in front of them, blurred visions of forgotten faces and fractured moments. A guttural cry cut through the room, reverberating within each heartbeat. "Get back!" Marcus shouted as he lunged for the screen just as it exploded in a burst of static noise, sending everyone stumbling backward. Shadows moved, swirling, seeped from the edges of the projector like dark ink. The fear that tore through them felt tangible, palpable. It was as if the shadows had a will of their own, hungry for the warmth of vitality, intent on dragging them back into the darkness. "Fight it!" Marcus gritted through clenched teeth, determination etched across his face. "We can't let it take us down." A bright flash took over their sight, followed by a deafening silence. With it came the realization that this battle was just beginning. The melody echoed louder, and a cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing their last flicker of comfort. Were they prepared to face the truth hidden within those shadows? As dread settled in, Evelyn was struck by a thought: what if they weren't the only ones being called? Even as they stood on the precipice of chaos, an ominous heartbeat thudded in the distance, hinting at something far worse waiting in the wings. What horrors lay in wait beyond the veil of the known? Would facing the truth lead to redemption, or was there a far greater darkness lurking just out of sight? Evelyn blinked, trying to wrestle her senses into something coherent. The shadows that had come alive now danced menacingly before her, twisting and contorting in ways that felt all too familiar. They were specters of her past, too, and the thought sent a chill racing down her spine. A low growl reverberated through the air, a sound both foreign and achingly personal. Before she could fully process it, a shadow lunged forward, the darkness stretching toward her like a claw. She stumbled back, skin prickling with an icy grip of terror. "Marcus!" She gasped, but his attention was locked onto the writhing mass of shadow. It flared dangerously, as if tasting their fear, seeming to feed off it. "We cannot let it take us," he barked. Simon, eyes wide, clutched at Tom's arm like a lifeline. "What if it already has?" "Shut up!" Marcus shot back, his voice steely but laced with a tremor that belied his calm facade. They needed focus. Quick breaths ebbed in the air, conjuring a fog of anxiety that hung like a noose above them. With a defiant cry, Marcus stepped forward, throwing his arms out wide. "You want us? You think you can have us?" His voice boomed against the walls, momentarily overpowering the melody that swirled through the air. "We say no." A silent pause fell over them then, vibrating with a potent tension, before the shadows roared back, more furious than ever. The projector lay cracked on the ground, flickering restlessly, shadows darting about, seemingly searching for a way out. The energy shifted, the temperature in the room plummeting, and suddenly, whispers filled the air, voices mingling with the haunting song, indistinguishable yet familiar. The shadows began to coalesce, forming shape and structure, revealing faces twisted in horror. Evelyn's breath hitched as she recognized one of them, a young girl, hair matted and eyes sunken with despair. "Help us," she pleaded, her voice a mere wisp of sound, yet full of aching desperation. "Please no." Marcus howled, the rawness of his fear cracking his resolve. "You can't let it in." But it already was. The air thickened, and Evelyn felt the weight of memory crashing into her, familiar yet foreign. The girl's eyes locked onto hers, a vortex of pain swirling within. It tugged at Evelyn's heart, dragging her closer to a twisted realm of sorrow. "Close your eyes," she whispered, the girl's voice echoing in a low, somber cadence that reverberated off the walls. "You can't fight it if you're afraid." "Enough!" Marcus shouted, ignoring her plea. He thrust his hand forward, summoning an unseen power as he fought to re-establish control over the chaos. The shadows shrieked, flaring with rage, and their forms jerked and twisted violently. Evelyn felt the pull of the girl's eyes, desperation creeping in like a fog. She squeezed her own eyes shut, plunging into the darkness behind her lids, trying desperately to crumple the instinct to flee. What if she did see those memories? Would they drag her too into the eye of despair? And then it happened. The song shifted, transforming, wrapping familiarly around her heart like an embrace. It morphed into a lullaby, laced with the scent of forgotten dreams, rising and falling gently, almost soothing. A warmth crept through her body, tendrils of hope fighting to break through the grip of fear. Simon's voice broke the silence, a faint thread of reason amidst the noise. "If it's calling to us, if it's hungry for our fear, what if we give it something else?" Evelyn's heart raced. Could they turn the tide? What if they fed it something different? Something like courage? Together, they could reshape the narrative. With a collective deep breath, they opened their eyes, defiance etched across their faces. But as resilience flared, a chilling realization washed over them. Would facing their fears bring liberation, or would it plunge them deeper into some unspeakable hell? Shadows writhed at the edges, relishing the moment, hungry for the fight they were about to unleash. What awaited them within the chaos? Would standing their ground awaken something darker than they ever imagined? The shadows screeched, a cacophony of fear clawing at the edges of their resolve. The figures danced like marionettes, twisting in grotesque forms, eyes glinting with wicked pleasure. Evelyn's heart raced. The girl's plea still echoed in her ears, yet the weight of the shadows loomed larger. "Now's our chance!" Marcus yelled, adrenaline sharpening his voice. He clenched his fists. "We can't let it consume us. We have to focus on something stronger than our fear." "But what?" Evelyn's mind swirled with fragments of memories, moments of joy, lost laughter. She glanced at Simon and Tom, their faces flickering between dread and determination. "Think happy thoughts." Simon managed, his voice shaky. "Are you serious?" Tom shot back, fear tinging his every word. "What good is that against whatever this is?" The shadows lunged again, their misbegotten forms stretching toward them, a hunger that felt almost sentient. But Evelyn closed her eyes, focusing on the warmth that had seeped into her heart earlier. She breathed deeply, visualizing her grandmother's gentle face, the laughter they shared over dinners, the joy in simple moments. "Maybe he's onto something," she murmured, a spark igniting within her chest. "Focus," Marcus urged. "Push back with everything you have." With newfound resolve, she opened her eyes, anchoring herself in those happy thoughts. Evelyn thought of a warm summer day, sunlight pouring through branches, laughter shared with friends. "It can't have this power over us," she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. As they unified their thoughts, the shadows hesitated, shifting uneasily, pulled by the power of their defiance. The figures, once malicious and foreboding, began to flicker like a bad signal. A moment of clarity washed over Evelyn. The despair, the loneliness, the macabre ballroom of shadows, they all craved connection, the very thing they denied in life. Remember your courage. She screamed, urging her friends to channel their light. Remember hope. A sudden, bright flash erupted from where they stood, illuminating the room with a stark radiance that sent the shadows screeching back. The oppressive silence shattered, replaced by collective breaths, hearts pounding like war drums. The girl's face remained carved in Evelyn's mind, trapped in that sorrow. "We can help you," she cried out, desperation woven into every syllable. "We can set you free." The moment stretched violently, the shadows recoiling as their shrieks morphed into something unnaturally mournful. Evelyn felt the shadows grasp at her, tugging at her core, testing her emotional tether. What if Simon hesitated, his voice barely above a whisper? What if it doesn't want to be freed? What if it wants someone to join its despair? Her breath hitched. The thought struck like lightning. What if their courage was nothing more than hope's cruel trick? Suddenly, a ripple passed through the darkness. The faces contorted, each pleading, yearning for release, but terrified of it as well. It petrified her to think that even in their fear, perhaps they were unwilling subjects to this shadowy symphony. "Stay together," Marcus commanded. "We can break this cycle." But Evelyn felt the pull, something inside her unlocking as she concentrated harder on that radiant light, a beacon burning in the night. The shadows twisted, trying hard to reclaim their hold, but the warmth spread like wildfire. "If we fight together, it has to fade," Tom shouted, bolstering their collective strength. Just then, a voice broke through the tumult, stronger and clearer than before. "Help us!" the sorrowful plea synthesized into a chilling realization. This was more than just a battle of light versus dark, it was a desperate fight for something that might drag them all into the abyss. Could they break the cycle of despair? As the shadows surged forward, threatening to engulf them in an eternal night, the question burned in the air like a candle's flicker against violent winds. In fighting to illuminate the darkness, would they form an unbreakable bond or unleash a darkness far greater than they could fathom? Was there a cost for their courage, one they weren't ready to pay? The flash of light pushed the darkness back, but it didn't disappear. Instead, it swirled and curled like smoke, becoming denser as if it were gathering strength. Evelyn's chest tightened, a knot of dread forming as she sensed something shifting, something wrong. "Stick together," Marcus shouted again, but his confidence wavered. The flames of their light flickered, dimming with the pressure of despair pressing down on them. Evelyn instinctively grabbed Simon's hand, feeling the tremor running through him. "We can't let go," she urged. "Keep thinking about what we love. Remember why we fight." "Or else what?" Tom shouted, desperation spilling over. "We end up like them. Completely consumed." His voice cracked like fragile glass. The shadows responded to his words, growing bolder, their tendrils lunging, hoping to ensnare the strength their opponents were channeling. The figures twisted and turned, whispering promises of darkness, coaxing with the seductive pull of giving up. "Close your eyes," Simon yelled, but the words were laced with panic. "Breathe. Think of those we've lost, the good times. Don't let them in." Evelyn did as he said. She closed her eyes and remembered the last days she spent with her grandmother. The warmth of the kitchen, the aroma of fresh cookies, and the sound of loved ones sharing stories. It was all that bonded her still, her lifeline against this creeping void. But just as quickly, memories of sorrow invaded, the last moments spent in the hospital, watching her grandmother slip away, the hollow ache in her heart. "No!" she shouted against the voices now filling her head. "This isn't the end. We're still here." The shadows recoiled slightly at her defiance, as if testing her willpower, and it dawned on her this sinister force thrived on despair and anguish. It wasn't just shadows, it was the embodiment of their collective fears, a being of misery that fed off their regrets and sorrow. What if Tom hesitated? What if we need to face our fears? Like really face them? Each of us, his face was pale, sweat dripped down his brow. We can't let fear rule over us if we want to fight back. No. Simon shot back, his voice barely above a whisper. What if exposing our pain only strengthens it? It's a trap. But it was too late, the shadows twisted closer. Evelyn's heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out Simon's protest. She was beginning to understand that they couldn't just push the darkness away. They had to confront it, or it would claim them like it did countless others before. Listen, she said, her voice steadying despite the shaking of her hands. Every one of these shadows is a part of us, the part we've been hiding. We can't just wish them away. We have to own our pain, accept it. Only then can we find our light. Evelyn opened her eyes again, staring straight into the swirling mass. I'm not afraid, she declared. I lost my grandmother, but she is still part of me. I love her, and I will fight for her memory. With those words, a surprising warmth surged deep within her. It was as though the memories morphed into a blazing fireball against the cold grasp of darkness. One by one, her friends began to echo her resolve. I lost my dog, Simon said hesitantly, his voice trembling but growing stronger. But I remember the joy he brought me, it lives on in me. Tom stepped forward, fists clenched. My mom, I thought losing her was the end, but she taught me strength. Her spirit is my strength. As they spoke, their words created a ripple effect, the shadows writhed, caught in the intensity of their confessions. The air crackled with raw emotion, the shadows screeched in chaotic fury, and for the first time, the darkness seemed afraid, but just then, a shadow formed larger than any before. A twisted face emerged from the mass, eyes burning with rage and something more, a promise of retribution. The whispers escalated into a roar. You cannot escape, it bellowed. Evelyn's heart raced once more. Was this a turning point? Or had they simply awakened a much larger predator? They had challenged the darkness, but could they maintain their resolve? As the final confrontation loomed, as the shadows lunged forward, Evelyn sensed their fear reflected in the eyes of her friends. What lay ahead? Could their shared strength withstand the weight of ancient sorrow threatening to crush them all? Evelyn's breath hitched as the massive shadow lunged, a dark blur that swallowed the light around them. It felt like being dragged towards an abyss, gravity pulling her down. She wrestled with panic, feeling the warmth of her friends beside her, an anchor in this storm of despair. Hold on, Marcus yelled, gripping his flashlight with a white-knuckled grasp. The beams flickered, casting erratic glows on the shadow's grotesque face. It twisted and distorted as if reacting to the light with revulsion. Evelyn summoned every ounce of strength she had. We have to fight it, she cried, feeling the words reverberate in the hollow space. We're not alone in this. Exactly, Simon added fervently. Our memories, our love. That's our power, we can push it back. Every word was a hammer strike against the panic settling in. The shadow writhed closer, a thick, smothering shroud. You think your feelings matter? It roared, the voice crashing like thunder. I am the weight of your failures, the silence of your grief. Evelyn tightened her grip on Simon's hand. They had to face this terror together. We are not failures, she shouted defiantly. We've loved, we've lost, but we are still fighting. We're not letting you take our hope. As she spoke, memories surged forth, images of joyful moments intertwined with grief. The heart-wrenching weight fell heavy but also warmed her, igniting a ferocious glow inside her. Tom shouted his own truths, his voice wavering but desperate. I've stumbled, lost friends, made mistakes. But I've learned. I rise each time. Evelyn felt the energy building, a light pushing against the shadow. The darkness recoiled, but it was not finished. With a howl, it surged forward, tendrils reaching for them like long skeletal fingers, determined to snuff out any flicker of defiance. Focus, Marcus bellowed, his flashlight dimming against the onslaught. Channel your strength through your memories. Evelyn's heart thundered in rhythm with her friends' voices, their fears morphing into battle cries. Together they began to chant, expressions fierce with determination. We remember love. We remember laughter. We remember joy. The air pulsed, and the shadows shrieked, their dreadful cries weaving through the air like a haunting melody. Evelyn felt the shadows trembling against the force of their collective memories. The darkness wasn't just a monster, it was a manifestation of their deepest vulnerabilities, and now together they were learning to pierce through it, but just as hope began to bloom, a sudden suffocating wave rushed over them, extinguishing their newfound light. You think you can conquer me? The shadow bellowed, its voice dripping with malice. What you cherish will only bring you pain. Evelyn staggered back, breathless. The shadow shifted, revealing glimpses of their past, flickering images of loss and heartache that cut like shards of glass. She flinched, feeling the raw ache swell again, memories pulling her back into a pit of sorrow. No! She screamed defiantly, arms outstretched, as if she could shield her friends from the barrage of their regrets. We won't let you define us. The shadows laughed, a chilling sound that echoed against the walls of their nightmare. And yet, there it was, a faint glimmer in the darkness, a weakness that whispered out of reach, but still present. Could it be an opening? Perhaps they could reinforce their light not just with memories of love, but with acceptance of their pain, the ultimate vulnerability. Reinforce it with everything. She urged, urgency knotting her throat. We must confront and embrace the hurt. All of it. The very air shimmered as her friends looked at her, realization dawning. They understood, the only chance against the shadows was to invoke the full spectrum of their emotions, both dark and light. Evelyn gasped, lungs burning as the darkness looming in front of them shivered, its form warping in uncertainty. In that moment, everything teetered on the edge. Would they have the courage to face their pain? Or would they falter in the grip of despair? As they exhaled, something shifted, a faint light flickering like a heartbeat, echoing the promise of hope as the shadows drew closer, their faces twisted with fury. Would they find the strength to embrace it all, and would that be enough to push the darkness back for good? The moment spun, uncertainty tightening its grip around them. Their real battle was just beginning. The shadows recoiled, wavering under the pressure of their collective resoluteness. Evelyn felt a rush of adrenaline as the light pulsed brighter, dancing around them like sparks. Their emotions, once a raw and painful burden, began to crystallize into something powerful, something tangible. Keep going. Simon urged, his voice steadying. We can't stop now. Tom stepped forward, his face set with determination. Every mistake made me who I am. Every loss taught me to cherish the little victories. Evelyn's heart surged at his words. Yes. They didn't need to erase their pain, they needed to own it. Each memory was a piece of armor, a shield against the darkness. Let it wash over you. Marcus called out. Embrace the fear and hurt, like waves crashing against a shore. Suddenly, the shadows shrieked, a horrifying symphony of clawing voices. Evelyn squeezed her eyes shut as nightmare visions clawed at her mind, the day she lost her grandmother, the guilt from the words left unspoken. Each memory felt like a dagger, but she was determined to take them all and weave them into strength. As the air thickened with their raw feelings, she envisioned each thread linking them together, forming a bright tapestry of hope. Their hope. We are more than our pain. She roared. Together, we are unstoppable. The darkness surged again, thrashing in fury, but the tendrils began to recede. Evelyn opened her eyes, the shadow now twisting and contorting as something inside it flickered, a shadow of its former self. They were pushing through. Let us remind it of joy. Simon shouted, and with that, they began chanting together again. Remember fun. Remember adventure. Remember love. Their voices sang out in unison, rhythms melding like a tightly woven fabric. The darkness thrashed harder, but Evelyn sensed that they were winning this battle of wills. Each word resonated deeply, cutting through the despair that had been tightly woven around them. As Evelyn stood, she could almost feel the weight of her grief dissipating. But the shadows weren't done. A dreadful howl punctured the air, filled with rage and sorrow. You think emotions will save you? I am eternal. I am what will remain when you crumble. No. Evelyn shouted back, her fear transforming into defiance. You are a liar. I choose to be more than just the pain you bring. With every beat of her heart, she felt a collective stirring in her friends. It was electric now, the atmosphere tinged with hope and defiance. But another wave crashed through the group, plunging them into darkness again, threatening to extinguish their light. It felt heavier than before, colder. It encased them, a vice-like grip squeezing them tighter. Evelyn gasped, her breath catching painfully in her throat. Don't give in. Marcus insisted. We can't falter now. Focus on the light. With shaking hands, Evelyn pushed forward, flooding her mind with memories, those beautiful moments interlaced with sorrow, and she could feel a spark inside her igniting anew. The light wasn't just surrounding them anymore, it was within them, a blazing hearth bringing warmth amidst the encroaching cold. Light and darkness locked in a fierce combat, both forces unwilling to yield ground. Meanwhile, the shadow howled, an anguished cacophony that echoed around the chamber, but Evelyn knew the danger was not just in the beast before them. From the depths of it, she sensed the whisper of another presence, something darker than just their collective regret. Was there something lurking within the shadow, waiting for a moment to pounce? What did it want from them? Push back. Evelyn cried, holding on to her friend's hands as if they were lifelines, and in that tight grip, she felt urgency mounting. Together, we stand. The moment hung heavy with tension. They were close, yet perilously far. Would they conquer this brood of despair, or would they become just another victim of their fears? As the darkness rolled in one final time, blackened tendrils reaching for their throats, Evelyn felt an internal storm brewing, the kind of storm that shakes the very earth beneath you. They could either drown in this darkness or ignite a fire that would illuminate the path to freedom, and with that thought coursing through her mind, something within her woke up. Was it enough? Would it unleash the final chance against the shadow? The answer lingered in the air, just out of reach. In the tense space where darkness loomed, Evelyn felt her heart race as each pulse thumped with the rhythm of battle. The shadows pressed in, cold tendrils stretching towards her like chilling fingers reaching for her essence. But she couldn't falter. Not now. Remember who we are. Simon shouted, his voice cracking but filled with sheer determination. We are light, we are love. We're the laughter that breaks the silence. With those words igniting a blaze between them, the air shimmered, charged with raw energy. They were close, so close. Images flashed through Evelyn's mind, warm hugs, late-night talks, laughter that echoed through the years. Each memory intertwined with her friends reminded her there was more than just fear. What is this darkness? Marcus roared, stepping forward into the encroaching shadows. It feasts on despair, but it doesn't own us. We define who we are. Evelyn could see it now. The massive figure before them twisted, a swirling mass of despair fighting to consume their vitality. It shrieked, an agonized wail that cut through the silence, reminding them of their scars. But with every scream, a new memory pulsed through her, every laugh, every joyous moment bold and bright. Let us recall what matters, Evelyn urged. Give it everything. Memories of joy, strength, passion. We cannot let it drown us. As they joined hands, a circle of defiance formed, each heartbeat synchronizing like a drum rallying an army. Together. They yelled, emphasizing the bond forged in those fleeting moments of happiness. We reach for hope. We refuse to give in. The shadows shrieked, a tortured juxtaposition against their unity. They hadn't just elevated their spirits, they had summoned a collective force strong enough to push back against the consuming darkness. Evelyn felt the warmth spread as light swirled around them, and she closed her eyes, channeling the core of their emotions, the happiness, pain, longing, and the memories that made them whole. It poured from them, a radiant anthem that set the shadows on edge. Flickers of their own light threatened to swallow the darkness that had tried to confine them for so long. Yes. Marcus bellowed, his face illuminated by the light flooding the room. Let it feed on our courage, our love. Our memories are the weapons. As they pushed forward, the shadow writhed and twisted violently, trying to recoil from the overwhelming brightness. Evelyn's spirit soared as she felt the group's energy wrapping around them like a shield, a fierce armor that began to break through the suffocating dread that had haunted them. With renewed strength, they screamed the memories of what they had lost: the laughter, the love, the simple joy of being alive. Light radiated, pushing back against the oppressive sadness, shadows dissipating like fog in sunlight. The room cracked and echoed with resilience. The huge shadow began to fragment, splitting apart like a crumbling wall that frowned against the enduring light. You cannot tear me asunder. It roared, but the voice faltered, vibrating with uncertainty. We can. Evelyn shouted, pushing out the last of her doubts. We will conquer your pain. We will face it. And you will be nothing. With a final cry that felt like breaking chains, they unleashed their collective memories, their triumphs and losses that transformed the darkness into ethereal wisps. The shadow writhed in fury. No. What is this light? The light is us. They all shouted together, their unified voices drowning out the fury. The oppressive gray lifted, and they stepped boldly into the fray. Evelyn felt the darkness shatter around them, the shadows melting away to reveal a world once lost to sorrow. In its place stood a radiant light, an embodiment of strength reborn from grief. The shadow's anguished cry faded into a whisper and then silence as they broke free from the iron grip of despair. They stood together, breathing in the air, a powerful tide of warmth washing over them. We did it, Simon whispered, awestruck. Together, Marcus affirmed, a shy smile finally emerging, breaking years of tension. Evelyn felt her heart swell with pride. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, reinvigorated by the power of connection and shared memories. They had transformed sorrow into light, fear into familiarity. And as they looked around at one another, the silhouettes of shadows vanished into the ether, leaving only the promise of tomorrow. A promise backed by the laughter they would continue to share. This moment was not an end, but the start of a new chapter. Let us never forget this, Evelyn said softly, a newfound sense of hope lighting her eyes. We'll always hold on to our memories, and we'll embrace what lies ahead. With that, she clasped her friend's hands, the bond unbroken, and stepped forward into the dawn of their collective future, leaving behind the remnants of past shadows. As the sun began to rise, painting their world in shades of gold, they carried the warmth of laughter and love in their hearts, a testament to all they had faced and overcome. Now, they were ready for whatever came next, and before you leave this incredible conclusion, I need you to act. You need to subscribe now to stay connected with us. Tap that red button immediately, so you don't miss a single exclusive story and adventure coming your way. Smash the like button now to help our community grow. Let us feed the algorithm and show everyone the power of our stories. Flood the comments section with your feelings and theories about this heart-pounding ending. I want to hear all your thoughts, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic conclusion. Let us spread the word far and wide. Your support helps us continue sharing the magic of these tales.